Discover the best in local business news with a subscription to the IBJ and Inside Indiana Business. For a limited time, try us out for just $1 a week for 8 weeks. Claim this limited time offer now at ibj.com/trial offer.
This is the IBJ podcast for the week of June 1st, 2026, brought to you by Taft. I'm your host, Mason King. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. In terms of household income, hitting six figures is a powerful milestone. You are situated comfortably in the middle class, which in the U.S. is currently defined as making $56,000 to $168,000 per year. If you want to zoom in on Indiana, the parameters for the middle class are $48,000 to $144,000 per year. Now, we all know that the cost of living is rising faster and higher than anyone wants, but doesn't it seem like you should be able to make it work on six figures per year? Over the last couple of years, a national conversation has been brewing online about why some people who make as much as $150,000 per year feel like they are barely getting by. And consumer sentiment just last week hit its lowest point in at least 50 years. Now, Pete the Planner isn't here to judge. His computations show how easy it can be for the finances of a $150,000 household to go off the rails. One unexpected blow to your budget for housing, transportation, childcare, or essentials like food can make it feel like the ceiling is caving in. At the same time, we need to consider whether the expenses we believe are necessary are actually the result in our culture of normalizing overconsumption. And how do the expenses of a middle-class family 2 generations ago compare to them now? Pete is our guest this week to explain the math behind the financial struggles for $150,000 households and to provide some guidance with a dose of straight talk about reducing expenses. Here's our conversation. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the podcast, Peter Dunn, a.k.a. Pete the Planner. Thank you for making time to chat, sir.
I do agree to the terms of this interview, calling you the award-winning host of the podcast, Mr. King. Congratulations.
Thank you. I have a very weird relationship with awards. I absolutely crave recognition for anything, but once I get recognition for them, I get very sort of surly. So
interesting.
I know it's weird. So just to let folks know, you're listening to the award-winning IBJ podcast. We won the gold medal, if you will, from the. I screw up this acronym.
This is why you're not going to win anymore.
No, it's not.
Association.
It's and because of advancing dementia, suddenly I'm now completely slips my mind. I want to say AARP. It's not the AARP, and I used to get it mixed up with some group with the same acronym that were just the bovine practitioners. But in any event, it's an industry award for people who run business publications. I want to thank them for liking it. You can understand.
Best speech ever.
You can understand why I get weird about it. So let's move on. So this week we wanted to talk about the issue weighing on most consumers, namely inflation. The price of living is increasing faster than most people are comfortable with. But we are looking in particular at a class of people who are nowhere near the U.S. median income. And we're looking at not just how much they make, but how they feel about the economy. If we wanted to put a title to it, it would be, why do Americans feel broke at $150,000 a year? Now, you suggested the topic. Quickly tell me why.
I think people get stuck on round numbers. Like at some point I want to make six figures. That's not even a round number, but it's an idea. What I've learned in central Indiana, a family of 4 can live on $150,000 and in some cases comfortably. But there's also other parts of central Indiana in which things feel super tight. Your margin for error is slimmer than you might have imagined. And I also think central Indiana is slightly unique in the rest of the country would struggle to raise a family of 4 on $150,000. And we have a lot to cover today, but I want to start with a disclaimer, as I always do. don't be offended by this, friends. Like, there's just no reason. Don't get upset. I'm not judging you. Yes, lots of people can do it. Lots of people can't. No one's better than anyone else. But let's kind of dive into the life of someone making 150 grand and see what we can learn. Am I allowed to set rules as a guest on a podcast, Mr. King?
No.
Oh,
what are you
sorry.
talking about? You can suggest topics, but that's it.
Okay.
Now, I've got breaking news. I want to preface the conversation today with this is literally breaking news.
Oh, my God.
Just this morning, Thursday, May the 28th, the U.S. Department of Commerce reported that inflation was up 3.8% in April as compared to the same month last year. I think the generally accepted figure for acceptable inflation, if that is something, is 2%. So it's fair to say that it still isn't under control.
I mean, look, you didn't ask, but I'm fine with 2.8 or 3, frankly. I think 3.8 gets a little spicy. 2 is kind of a weird Fed wishful thinking thing. But I think 2.8 or 3 is what most financial planners use in their assumptions. I am submitting a column to you this week about beef, honestly.
What, our beef or whose beef?
Yeah, the beef. Yeah, it's a basic classic rat beef. But no, it's about, there's some product or service in all of our lives that we would normally buy and consume that product or service, but at a certain point we won't. It's a price elasticity explained. And beef is that for me right now. And I think when we talk about someone making $150,000, what we see is someone who can theoretically kind of buy what they want, within reason. But if they don't have a good relationship with elasticity, things get real bad real fast. And I think that's the story of a household making $150,000 a year right now.
Okay, before we go there, I'm getting some new news. Second economic indicator we need to talk about, or at least acknowledge here at the beginning, the Consumer Sentiment Index dropped to its lowest level on record earlier this week. That goes back at least 50 years. Now, the Consumer Sentiment Index is more an indication, again, of how people feel than the inflation figures, which are just straight up math. What's interesting is that the consumer sentiment number is even lower than it was in the pandemic and the Great Recession, for whatever reason. I'm sure it's a wide range of reasons, but the economy is putting people in the most grim mood in at least 2 generations.
So my UPS guy comes to our office every day and delivers packages. He says to me yesterday, he goes, "Hey, Pete." And he really did. And he doesn't have a New York accent. He's like, "Hey, Pete, I got out of the market in October, but now it keeps going up and I don't know what to do. Why is it still going up?" And I was like, well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think you and I've talked about this, Mason. The market and the economy feel completely disconnected. And when you talk about consumer sentiment, I believe this is just a sign of the K-shaped economy we lived in. Of all those people that have like a dour sentiment about the economy, it's because they aren't participating in the markets. So there's nothing to gain other than inflation. My beef with beef would be beefier if I wasn't in the market, because then I would just be focused on what I can't have as opposed to the upside that I'm also experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Literally, when I was talking to my buddy in the newsroom this morning and I was asking him, hey, make sure we post that story about the inflation figures. And he said, well, market's still doing great. Market doesn't care. And I said, this is one of the most bizarre benefits of having enough money to put yourself into the market. You're living in a different economy. I mean, you're watching your, at least, not necessarily on paper, but your theoretical, asset explode while other people are struggling in a huge way.
Absolutely. And I think when you think about ownership and you think about consumption and materialism, this $150,000 price point gets interesting because you can have all of these things and show them to yourself and to Instagram, but you may not actually own them. You may be renting them or leasing them or buying them on a payment plan. And that's why I think this wage band is amongst the stickiest in the Midwest. And I know people who are not making $150,000 household income hear that and the tiny violins get pulled out of their pockets. I'm just saying, I see this stuff. I'm telling you, the $150,000 household is going through some stuff right now. And whether you choose to care about that or not, we'll see. But it is tricky.
Okay. So what are they going through?
I think anytime we have these conversations, we need to net down a gross income. Like we need to get it into numbers that you and I can relate with. So I'll say this at the very least, and this is a realistic very least, someone making $150,000 household income should be saving at least 10% off the top for retirement. And that is like below what it should be. But I am also realistic to know that people don't do what I ask them to do. So 10%, that's $15,000 off the top. And then based on state and local taxes, we're really netting it down to about $102,000 a year, or $8,500 a month is what you and I are playing with today on the wheel of misfortune. $8,500 a month.
That I can just say, though maybe I'm revealing too much. That is fairly close to the number that my wife and I work with.
Okay.
And we have taken out, I mean, the money that we save. I mean, this is, I get, my pre-tax income goes in there, and then our health insurance. And what else is in there? Let's just say that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think where Central Indiana is better than most of the country is the very first category that people consider after those deductions that you and I just talked about, and that's housing. We have relatively affordable housing. So I would never want someone to spend more than $2,200 to $2,600 a month on their mortgage payment or rent if they're making a gross $150,000 a year. So we'll start there, and I think that's where people actually make mistakes, because the lenders will lend you a lot more than that.
Okay.
I mean, here's the other part of that. That typically means if the person purchased their home recently, the home value is between $375,000 to $500,000 at a 6 to 7% interest rate. That is a 6 to 7% interest rate.
Nobody can see, obviously, that you did the old-fashioned 6-7 gesture there.
It's old-fashioned. So, but I think this is the interesting part. Okay, so sometimes when I have these conversations about people's income and their perceptions of income, there's a level of entitlement, not in a negative sense, but it's just like, okay, I make $150,000. I should at least be able to afford a $400,000 house. Like people kind of think that. I'm not judging, but they do. And so if that is what they think, and then they manifest that with a home purchase, so far of their $8,500, a quarter to a third of it, it's gone. Yeah. It is accounted for.
Mm-hmm. And on top of that, we're also looking at when I was kind of back of the napkining. Wow, I made a new verb. Back of the napkining. You also have your insurance, your property taxes, maintenance, yada yada yada. That's all housing.
Well, and then this is where I want to get pretty local here, actually, because property taxes end up mattering quite a bit with this. And so, at the risk of angering literally every ear that consumes this, let's go through some of the local communities and see what this price of house will actually get you.
Dude, let's do it. Yeah.
I know. In Carmel, it will get you dizzy from the roundabouts, but it will also only get you about a starter home. Right? A starter to mid-range home is what $150,000 household income will get you.
Okay.
I mean, in home purchase. Now there's renting and leasing, and there's some population density that you can take advantage of as a renter. But Carmel, what I'm saying is if you have $150,000 household income, you're likely in a starter home unless you're really making a big mistake and buying more than that.
And then just quickly, tangentially pursuant to inflation or just the housing market, the price of these homes over the last 10, 15 years has gone up a lot.
Not a small factor, right? Yeah. Like I'm going to name some other communities, and they all have some appreciation rate to them. Carmel is amongst the highest. That being said, I was doing some research for our discussion today, which it felt strange because I've literally never done that before. Zionsville actually has an average higher average household income than Carmel. But Carmel always has a reputation of having just the highest income, and it doesn't. Fishers, at $150,000 household income, you're in a comfortable home. You are taking advantage of those former cornfields up 37. You're in a good spot. Greenwood, you're in an incredibly strong spot. Plainfield, I would classify Avon, Plainfield, really solid.
Yeah.
At that level. And then in Indianapolis, strange real estate market at times, right? I would say you're in the upper middle part of the real estate market in Indianapolis. You can't get into some of the exclusive areas, but at $150,000 household income, as I've just sort of, aggregated for you in central Indiana, you're okay. You're okay, but as we'll get to here in a minute, there's some major mistakes that throw this off instantaneously.
Okay. Tell me more. Where are you headed?
Let's talk cars. And I've sort of created a family here. It's a two-person, 2 people and then 2 kids. So it'd be 4 people with my math.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have 2 cars in central Indiana. All due respect to the red line. $35,000 to $45,000 is probably one vehicle, and it's probably on payment. Like, people are making about a $700 a month payment on that. And then the second vehicle is generally paid off in more of a modest vehicle. So most people make $150,000. If you're doing it right, you got one payment, not 2 payments. You got 2 payments, then that's where this starts to go off the rails really fast. Again, don't feel judgment. Just feel the finite nature of income.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But then gas, this is where you're subjected to inflation, gas, maintenance, that older paid off car, occasionally it's going to go, and that sound means Pet Boys opens early on Sundays, right? Like, you got to figure that out. I always like the people in the parking lot of auto parts stores with their hood open. And I always imagine to myself, what are they looking for? What do they know? Have you ever opened a hood and known what you're looking at and or for?
If I was looking for the oil thingy, yes.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea. Anyway, so I think if your transportation stays around $1,200 to $1,500 all in, you're going to be okay. If you creep to $2,000, a quarter of your income for transportation, that is besides housing. So it's the number 2 thing that could go wrong is that transportation decision.
Okay. Can I throw, quickly throw in a couple?
Yeah.
Real quick. I don't know if your family included this. Childcare or private school?
Did I put those in the thing?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
No, but I'll tell you this, that those both take this completely off the rails.
Yeah.
That is, I don't weigh in on private school. It's not out of a lack of exposure to it. Childcare, that's where this feels like you have no wiggle room. You may not even be able to go on the vacation you want to go on. That sort of thing. That's where $150 in central Indiana goes off the rails if you've got significant childcare costs. In private school, again, it becomes untenable pretty quick.
Yeah. You were going to hit food there. Tell me about food.
This is an interesting one because I think it matters whether you have little kids or you've got smelly teens, which are the 2 versions of children. My kids are currently, they consume food. $1,300 to $1,800 a month of food, and that's about $900 to $1,200 in groceries, okay, which seems pretty reasonable. That has a Costco run in it. Then the dining out is $300 to $700, and I've done this long enough to know, Mr. King, that your listeners now are judging everything. Or $700 a month in dining out. Great, then don't do it, and you're going to have more wiggle room. But I'll just say, from what we see, family of 4 making $150,000. It is not unusual that they're spending $1,500 to $1,800 a month on food, and oftentimes more, which gets them in a bind.
If I could just vouch for it real quick, I don't know if we've talked about this, but my wife and I actually look at all of our expenses like line by line once a month, and then have numbers figured out for, what we want to budget. And I can tell you that it is super easy to go from $300 in takeout in restaurants to $750 in takeout without even like realizing you're doing it. And that, I think our ceiling currently is like 500.
Truth be told, this past weekend, I plugged a lot of my financial information back into the software of which my company built. And I was doing the same thing, Mason. I was like, I feel like my food costs have gotten weird. I keep blaming beef, but I'm sure that the beef, cattle farmers? Is that what do we call the beefs? Like, what do we?
Yeah, it's cattle.
Cowmen. I don't know what they're called,
right.
but they're mad.
They're ranchers. Let's call them ranchers.
But it gets out of it can. I bet if somehow, some way, every person listening to this did a food audit right now and compared it to last year, it would blow them away how much more money they're spending on food. It would blow them away. Even energy prices in the last 2 months have driven food prices wildly higher.
Okay, let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsor. This is the IBJ Podcast.
Taft, today's modern law firm. At Taft, we cultivate a highly respectful, transparent workplace that fosters creativity, teamwork, inclusion, and diversity. We couple our culture with a client-first approach, rewarding lawyers who understand their clients' goals and work to deliver success. Taft, the modern law firm. To learn more, visit taftlaw.com.
Building a home or looking to upgrade what you already have? That's where Indie Grills comes in. From fireplaces, outdoor kitchens, to entire custom patios, we bring everything together to create spaces designed for how you actually live. We work directly with homeowners and partner with custom home builders to get it right from the very start. Are you looking for inspiration? Our massive showroom on the Zionsville-Lebanon border was built to help you see what's possible. So when you're ready to elevate your space, head to indiegrills.com and connect with our team.
All right, we're back with this week's episode of the IBJ Podcast. In my interview with Peter Dunn, Pete the Planner, about households with six-figure incomes that are struggling to make ends meet. Yeah, and then into your computation on the grocery, that is also really consistent with us. I'd say, depending on the kind of coupons that Kroger gives us, and that they somehow know that we need, really on an item-to-item basis, which is really scary. I mean, they just send us the coupons for the stuff that we always buy. Anywhere from $235 to $300 per week. That's for 3 people.
Let's go to the next big category, and this is the biggest ranging one, depending if you have small kids, if they're in daycare, if they're in private school, or if they're teens and they've got more expensive needs. But I've got about $500 a month in child-related expenses for a $150,000 earning family in central Indiana, and I will tell you, Mason, that ain't enough. This is where it breaks. This is where it breaks.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really fast. If your kids are playing travel sports, it's broken.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a teen driver and you have car insurance for the teen driver, this is dead. If you've got teens and you have a $150,000 household, it's really challenging. And again, people are not going to want to hear that. They're going to poo-poo it. It's the truth.
Yeah. And I kind of threw that in my nickel and diming category, like subscription services, gym memberships. We have a 10-year-old, so the kids' sports thing isn't totally out of control yet, but it very easily could if we thought of him as some sort of prodigy.
Well, I'm sure he will be. I think let's talk subscriptions since you just brought it up. Let's stay off. Let's do more entertainment subscriptions as opposed to health subscriptions. Like that's a little. I always put gym into health, like a gym membership or fitness membership into health and wellness. But let's talk about what I like to call the new necessities. 30 years ago, you and I are having this conversation. We're paying Ma Bell. We're paying. We're not even paying internet service. We're paying the classic utilities. Well, today, those utilities of what used to be $250 a month, they're $700 to $800 a month between internet, cell phone, all the streaming services, any other subscriptions you have. No one has a landline anymore. But that's a lot. And then that's where if you bought too big of a house, if you instead of bought that $400,000 house, you snuck your way into a 650, then your utilities are ruining your financial life.
Wow.
That's the lens I want people to look at here is we're talking all of these spending categories. If things are tight and it's really hard, it's not your income that's necessarily making it hard. And I hope people don't think that's the point today. What category are you willing to fall on the sword for that is kind of ruining your financial vibe? Like, are you willing to have your financial life ruined because you have too high of utility costs? Are you willing to do it because you love your house? Are you willing to do it because you've got the latest cool whip? And that's not a topping for pies for the Midwesterners. That is a car, a whip. The kids used to call it a whip. Did you know that?
I had no clue.
But anyway,
we called them rides. So you come on a ride.
Yeah, you're an older fella. But what are you willing to ruin your life for financially? That's the question. Like it almost should be the title of the podcast. And I don't need to tell you that, Mr. King.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. We can do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, this is interesting. First, I want to again make the point that there are definitely people out there who are saying if you make $150,000 a year and you feel broke, you've got a problem with budgeting.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Okay, so this is my life's work, understanding how people budget. They don't. Okay, so like today I was doing something and I saw like a average car payment in America is now over $1,000 or something like that. And it's like, okay, great. Don't do that. Like, don't do that. Like, don't subject yourself to it. It's like, whoa, but it's $1,000. No, it's not if you don't do it. All of these things we're talking about today you should be able to live on $150,000, but based on how consumerism works and how people examine or don't examine their spending and the impact of inflation, it is hard. The exception to the rule is budgeting, not vice versa.
Right. So this feeling of being broke is less about survival and more about maintaining an increasingly expensive version of normal, whatever you believe that you're normal to be.
I think that's as good a way to say it as anything. It's the normalcy of overconsumption. It's the normalization of lifestyle creep. I'm not a sociologist or a anthropologist. I don't even know what the anthropologist is. I'm not an archaeologist. I'm not any of these things. But I will say things like Instagram, knowing what your neighbors have and what the inside of their house looks like, it can't have helped, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's certainly not moving us in a good direction. And I think I always bring this up on the show. So this is someone's bingo card's about to get filled up. Like the impact here is people aren't retiring, right? Like when I said at the beginning that like we're taking 10% off to save for retirement, well, I've just destined that person for failure because that's not enough. So if things are getting tight and you're only saving 10%, are you going to save the 15% I want you to save? No, that's the whole point. You're actually going to try to squeeze that 10% down.
This is a question that I had or wanted to pose to you. So I want to, let's say that I have a lot of debt. And it sounds like we're saying that these folks who live these $150,000 lives do have a significant amount of debt. Should I pull back on my retirement savings in order to eliminate the debt?
No, you should pull back on your consumption of things, which again, like saying the truth out loud and actually like I'm giving mathematical truth, like math's undefeated. People say, you can. It's like, well, you can. You literally can do any of this. It's like the $1,000 car payment. Just don't do it. Well, that's what its average is. Great, don't do it. Don't be part of the average. In this case, if you've got a bunch of consumer debt, don't pull back on retirement. You just made everything worse. And that's the interesting part about personal finance is that people go to solve behavior issues with these big thundering decisions like stopping 401k contributions, and then the situation gets worse. It gets worse because then time starts ticking faster.
I would think maybe the biggest blow to somebody's ego would be having, especially somebody in the middle of their life, would be having to downsize their house.
It is the ultimate power move. It is the ultimate power move. Every time I see someone do that, I'm like, they are gonna do it. They are gonna succeed because that is the issue. Now, the argument against this is that, well, the home may appreciate and be worth more someday. Okay, that fair. But if you got to fight tooth and nail to take advantage of that time passing while you're underfunding retirement and your financial life's getting worse and you're getting stressed, it's not worth hanging on. So I love when people downsize, not resize, which is a very common empty nester thing. We're going to sell the family home and move into a smaller home with bigger closets, bigger kitchen, and it's the same price. Like, downsizing is not just about square footage. It is about financially downsizing a home.
Yeah, you brought up a point I was going to hit on too. A lot of people who feel financially stressed will look to their homes as their biggest investment and say, hey, at least I have this, $700,000 home, and 10 years from now, this will be a $1 million home. This is where my nest egg is. It's in the house. But is that really a realistic way to something to base your retirement on?
If there's good, better, best, that's maybe short of good, right? And I don't mean that in a rude way. Like, it's close to good. I'm currently getting bludgeoned on TikTok for a video I posted for my podcast last week about the way the American will actually retire today is to own their home outright and not have that obligation, thus reducing their need for income in retirement. And people think that I'm a moron, which is beside the point. I think owning your home outright, a big asset, is cool if you're willing to take advantage of the flexibility of that. If you're still struggling financially and you own a $700,000 home outright, you still have the upkeep costs of a $700,000 home, which takes you backwards. So sure, do it, sell it, downsize, and then have lesser expenses. But if you just, I don't know, it's like having a diamond as far as I'm concerned. It's like, oh, it's worth $60,000. I don't care. What's that going to do for me? Yes, I love you. You're wonderful. I mean, and to you, Mr. King. But like, what's the point?
So what else can we do to help these folks feel more financially secure, or maybe even beyond feeling secure, making them financially secure?
My gosh, I just, in this moment, I just had a thought. I'm like, I feel like my dad. I just, like, in that moment, I was like, wow, whatever answer I'm about to say, I feel like my dad would have said it like several years ago. I think people have to do something extraordinary. I think if they don't want to be ordinary, and ordinary is at this point to struggle with $150,000 a year of a household income in Central Indiana, and I'm not kidding. They have to do something different, which is they actually have to budget. They have to choose which one of these categories we've talked about is their indulgence, and the other ones have to be more pedestrian. The average American is strapped. And I don't mean carrying a concealed weapon.
Well, there's a good
also,
percentage.
The average American is strapped.
Yeah.
The average Texan. Everyone wants to be unique by doing the same thing, but I think you got to be unique in your financial life and do what everyone's not doing, which is like to do math. I own and run a software company that helps people simplify their financial lives, that does the math for them. And what I'm saying to you is, like, people actually need to do the math themselves. Like, they need to sit down and look at the math, because I think it's like weighing yourself every once in a while, and you step on it, what? Is that even a number? That looks like a Cyrillic character. I don't even know what that is. And that's important because it kind of shocks you into going, oh, geez, this is real. It can be measured.
I will say that, the exercise that my wife really leads for the family, where we're looking at these expenses every month, every single expense, has really been the only thing that has kept me from living the life I used to lead, which was like living out of my checking account.
I remember talking to you about that, even your lunches at work and like how quickly those add up.
Yeah. I mean, as long as like I had like a decent balance in my checking account, I felt like I was fine. I wasn't saving any money, but I mean, I wasn't looking at individual expenses. I was just, going by vibes.
You did ask, what is there a fix to this? And I said, do the math or whatever. There's actually a simpler fix, which is to fund your financial goals first and then just figure out the rest. Like, and that often sounds glib. Like if I say that, people go, oh, well, but yeah, that's how you do it. I think I've been given advice in the media for 21 years or something like that. Mm. It's changed how people hear it. People would go, oh yeah, that's sensible. And now people say, I can't do that. It's like, well, no, you can do that. We've just stopped doing that. People have stopped doing what they should do. And instead we say, well, why should you tell me what we should do? And it's like, well, I can't want financial stability more for you than you want for yourself. And this is not me being holier than thou. This is me saying like consumer sentiment is just wildly different than it was even pre-pandemic. Like that time frame has changed. We laugh on this show, you and I, sometimes talking about how the YOLO mentality is just on steroids now, right? You only live once. You gotta do this, and it's like it is unsustainable. I got an email from an 87-year-old listener of my podcast this past weekend, which is like I'm the voice of octogenarians, as most people say. Chris Denary does the Pacers. Mark Minner does Butler, and I am the voice of octogenarians. And I was talking about on the show just like this feeling of like people are in such a hurry to not work and to like get past the work phase of their life so they can do whatever they want. And I'm like, how did we get there? Speaking of how do we get there, how did I get here on this show talking about this? Sorry.
No.
It happens.
No, that actually feeds into my next question, which is about expectations. So I grew up, a little bit before you did, in the 80s, let's say. And I had an idea of what middle class life was like. You owned your own home. You had 1 or 2 cars. You could send your kids to college. And, you could take a couple of vacations every year. It seems like the price of that is now higher than what a middle class person should be able to expect. And yet we expect to be able to have, a certain quality of life.
Yeah. This is not different from however you're socialized and whatever, as a teen, as a kid, and whatever you experienced because your parents did something. In a lot of cases, your middle class folks, they try to replicate it. They're like, I want the same feel, comfort level. It's twice as expensive to replicate the same thing your parents did. And so it's not impossible. It's a lot harder than people think. They think, well, I'm as educated as my parents. I actually make 80% more money than my parents. I mean, I think about my dad's career earnings and his income at the height of his career in relation to mine a lot. And he did a lot more at the peak of his career than I'm doing now, because the dollar stretched further. And I think people might want to complain about that, but they don't want it to then lead to the changes they make in their decisions.
Mm-hmm. There's something else that you brought up, and this goes more to expectations, especially about social media. I think in the consumer sentiment index, the person who's in charge of that research actually said that social media is one of the biggest problems they think that they're dealing with now, is that it's too easy to see conspicuous consumption and have your expectations raised by that.
It's funny, my podcast this week is going to be about how to become a millionaire, whether you're starting in your 20s, your 30s, or your 40s. So we're like going to do the math and do that whole thing. And as I'm coming up with the show, Mr. King, I thought to myself, someone's going to read the title of this, think it's clickbait because it insinuates that you could be a millionaire in your 20s, which then people want to be, of course, a millionaire in their 20s or in their 30s or in their 40s because they want to have the lifestyle that that comes with what they think is what a millionaire would do. But of course, it's the complete opposite. To be a millionaire someday, starting in your 20s, you can't do anything remotely like living like a millionaire.
No.
At all. And then, again, I'm the voice of the octogenarians.
My favorite topic, of course, is the emergency fund. Some of these people, I assume, when we're talking about, even though they make $150,000 a year, don't have a significant emergency fund. Will that help them feel not broke?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I'm actually going to disagree with you. I think they will have an emergency fund. I think they use it for the wrong thing. Like what they deem to be an emergency isn't an emergency. It's an opportunity, or it's, I want to replace my appliances, or we've needed to redo the bathroom. It's these sort of things that then lessen it. And then as your kids get older and life gets more expensive and inflation takes hold, refilling that emergency fund becomes harder and the emergencies get more expensive. I mean, you and I are basically the same age, but 10 years ago, your financial emergencies were not nearly what they are now. Right. And that's not inflation. That's just the stage of life you're in. I mean, I miss my emergencies from 10 years ago. Now it's like, what? Huh? And I think that's very real for people in this wage range.
How do we get people to stop making spending decisions emotionally?
I was going to say medication, but I don't. I mean, I hate that I just say math. I just want to wear a shirt that just says math on it. It doesn't. It's math. You have to look. You have to look at your account, and you have to understand what your goals are. I still think there's a great deal of nihilism in the modern consumer of that, because we are all subject to the bottom leg of the K-shaped economy. Everyone is subject to it. Some people are appropriately and lovingly subjected to the top leg of the K-shaped economy. But everyone's in the bottom leg. So you're just like, well, this stinks. What's it matter? And it's that what's it matter? It's that capitulation. That's what I'm a little bit worried about.
All right, let's say that we have persuaded someone in the audience. They really do need to make a significant change. How can we direct them?
I would just ensure that whatever problem area exists in your personal finances, it's the one you're willing to fall on the sword for. I think sometimes people will look at the one that's killing them and they'll go, oh, no, why, And it's okay that you overspend in an area, but don't be in something you don't care about. And I think that's the takeaway. At $150,000, you can absolutely afford a mistake. You can afford an vice. You cannot afford 5 mistakes and 5 vices. At lesser income levels, that margin for error shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. At higher income levels, it widens and widens and widens. And that's the nature of, I guess, the concept of margin for error. It's like you either can make mistakes or you can. And at 150, it starts to get a little tighter.
So I've got to fall on my sword on something. Make sure it's something that I feel comfortable falling on.
Sure.
Okay. And it's not my retirement savings.
I want it to be your I wanted you how much you put in your retirement savings, not the balance.
Right. All right, man. Well, thank you for going through that emotional journey.
Oh, congratulations again on your Academy Award, Mr.
Stop it. My thanks again to Peter Dunn. And folks, before you get on with the rest of your week, there are several stories in this week's issue of IBJ I want to draw to your attention. First up, rural hospitals in Indiana are facing a crisis that could lead to more health deserts across the state, hospital leaders say. Daniel Bradley examines the financial factors upending healthcare in the state. Also in this week's issue, Alyssa Maudlin reports on the mixed reactions to Zionsville's plan to revitalize its carefully curated downtown. And Dave Lindquist explains how concert venues are leaning into premium experiences as a way to keep their doors open. Again, you can find these stories in the latest print edition of IBJ or online at ibj.com. I will say it's quite a bit easier to access all the latest business news and all of IBJ's data on Central Indiana's business community and economy if you're a subscriber. We're running a promotion right now that gives you complete access for $1 per week for 3 months, just to get a sense of how valuable and original our content is. Just go to ibj.com and click on the subscribe button. And thanks again for making time this week for the IBJ podcast. I'm Mason King. Hang in there, everybody. We'll be back again next week.
Curious about what's shaping law in Indiana? From court reforms and NIL rights to mental health courts and energy commissions, the Indiana Lawyer Podcast breaks down the biggest legal issues of our time. I'm your host, reporter Maura Johnson. Join me every other week for your insider guide to what matters in law and why it impacts you. Subscribe now in your favorite podcast app or at ibjpodcasts.com.
Do you want to know what really drives change in Indiana? You won't find it in sound bites, you'll find it in stories. Stories from CEOs, lawyers, coaches, entrepreneurs, and community advocates. That's the IBJ Media Podcast Network. Insightful, local, impactful. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcast.com.